We're on page 58, topic 12, and we're going to do examples of division with polynomials. And so we're going to do these two examples in more detail. But before, we should note this. In either the dividend or the divisor, any missing terms in descending powers of x must be entered with a zero coefficient to help to keep like terms in the same column. So right over here you see that you have 3x cubed minus 5x. There's no x squared term. So what you're going to do is create an x squared term and put a 0 in front of it, because 0 times x squared is 0, and that's to keep like terms in the same column. We'll see what this means as we go along. So we're going to start with number 1 and do it in more detail. And remember, in this process we have a dividend, we have a divisor, we have a quotient, and we have a remainder. We discussed this topic on page 57. So this is the dividend, and this is the divisor, and this here is the quotient, and we'll talk about the remainder in a minute. So let's go over how we do this problem. Remember, what we've got to do is take this first term right here, this first term in the dividend, and divide it by the first term here. So that's what I've done over here. 3x cubed divided by x. 3x cubed, the first term here, divided by the first term there, gives us 3x squared, and that 3x squared goes right here. So that gives us that term right here. Now we multiply the 3x squared by x minus 1, so 3x squared times x gives us 3x cubed. 3x squared times minus 1 gives us minus 3x squared. And so we have to subtract, we have to take this and subtract that. And we need a term in x squared so we can see what happens on the line above, and there is no term in x squared, so we put a 0 in front of it, and that's really 0. So 3x cubed minus 3x cubed gives us 0 right here. 0 minus 3x squared, okay, gives us plus 3x squared right here as the remainder. And I've shown that right over here. 3x cubed minus 3x cubed minus 3x squared. So I'm taking 3x cubed and subtracting this, and I'm left with 3x squared. I then bring down the next term, which is minus 5x. I bring that term down. I always bring down a term. So now what I do is I have this term, and I'm going to divide it by this. So this first term divided by x, 3x squared divided by x gives me 3x. So I put that in the quotient, and it's plus 3x because this is plus right here. So I take 3x squared, divide it by the x, and I get plus 3x over here. Now what I'm going to do is multiply 3x times x, gives me 3x squared. 3x times minus 1 gives me minus 3x. And now I'm going to take this line and subtract that line right there. So 3x squared minus 3x squared gives me 0. Minus 5x minus 3x gives me minus 5x plus 3x, which leaves me with a minus 2x. And you can see right here, I've done that right here. The 3x squared, which is this term right here, I'm subtracting that, which is this term here, and that leaves me with minus 2x. I bring the next number down 2, and now I take minus 2x and divide it by the term x here, and I get minus 2. Minus 2x divided by x gives us minus 2, which goes right here. Now I multiply minus 2 times x, I get minus 2x. I multiply minus 2 times minus 1, and I get plus 2. And if I say minus 2x minus 2x, this becomes a plus 2x. This term goes to 0. Plus 2 subtracting 2 gives me 0. So my remainder is 0. So I've done that over here. Minus 2x plus 2, which represents this line, minus this line. If you remove the brackets, use the distributive rule, the 2x becomes minus 2x becomes plus 2x. So this, the minus 2x and the plus 2x cancel to 0. Plus 2 here cancels with the minus 2 over there. So I get 0, and the remainder is 0. So here's what I'm saying is if I take 3x cubed minus 5x plus 2 and I divide it by x minus 1, I get this as the answer, which is this right here, 3x squared plus 3x minus 2. Okay, there's my answer. So if we multiply both sides, we can check the answer to this problem. If we multiply both sides by x minus 1, then x minus 1 times this will give me 3x cubed minus 5x plus 2, because the x minus 1 on the numerator here and the x minus 1 on the denominator cancel. Now I'm going to multiply this by x minus 1, because I multiply the left side of the equation by x minus 1. I've got to multiply the right side, and that's how I get this. So the left side, when I multiply it by x minus 1, gives me this, and the right side gives me this. So I'm going, because the right side is more complicated, I'm going to take it, and I'm going to multiply x times all of this bracket, which is this, right here. And then I'm going to multiply minus 1, which is right here, by all of this bracket, and I get that. And when I remove the brackets, x times 3x squared, I'm using distributive rule, I get 3x cubed. X times plus 3x gives me plus 3x squared. And x times minus 2 gives me minus 2x. Now I remove this bracket here, I get minus 3x squared. Minus 1 times plus 3x gives me minus 3x. Minus 1 times minus 2 gives me plus 2. Now let's see what we can do about collecting like terms. There's only one term, x cubed, right here. So there it is right there. Now I'm going to take plus 3x squared and minus 3x squared. I'm going to collect them. They're going to sum to 0. So minus 2x and minus 3x gives me minus 5x. And then I'm left with a plus 2. Now, by the way, over here I should have 6 terms, right? And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So just make sure you collect the same number of terms. Now, once I get to the end of this, and I see it's this is exactly the left side right here. So this is an indication that I've done the problem correctly. Now, the second problem example that's illustrated, which we'll go over on page 58, number 2. And here we have our dividend and our divisor, and this is our quotient, and this is the remainder. So how does this come about? Okay, where do we get this from? Where did we get this from? We're going to follow exactly the same as we did before. Now notice, descending powers. So check that. 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Descending powers of x, x squared here. And now what we're going to do is to start off by taking the first term here and dividing it by that. So 2x to the fourth by x squared gives us 2x squared, and that will go right here. So we take the first term here, divide it by this, that gives us 2x squared. We put that right here. Now I'm going to multiply 2x squared times x squared gives me 2x to the fourth. Remember, it has to be descending powers of x, so I put a 0 here. Okay? And so 2x squared times 0 is 0. So I have no power in the x cubed term. This is really 0, or if you want to write 0x cubed, it's okay. And finally, I multiply 2x squared times plus 1, and I get 2x squared. So I have a x to the fourth term, I have an x to the 3 term lined up, and I have this. Now you can leave this term out totally if you like, but you're still going to have to do the subtraction afterwards. So let's go over this. I took this and I divided by this, I got this. Then I multiplied this times this whole term, and it gave me this line here. Now I have to subtract this minus this whole thing. So 2x4 minus x4 minus 2x to the fourth. 2x to the fourth minus 2x to the fourth give me 0. That's why there's no term here. Now minus x cubed, subtracting nothing because this is 0, minus x cubed subtracting nothing still gives me minus x cubed. 3x squared minus 2x squared gives me 1x squared, or just x squared. And then I bring the next term down. I always bring the next term down. Now, what I'm going to do is divide minus x cubed by x squared. The first term here by this term here. So I've got minus x cubed divided by x squared gives me minus x. So that goes right here. This term goes right here. Remember, this one goes here, and the second one goes here, and the third one, which we'll discuss, goes right over here. So I've done these, I've added these so we can see where we're going. Now, what I did was I said minus x cubed divided by x squared gives me minus x, and I got minus x here. Now I'm going to multiply this, minus x times x squared gives me minus x cubed. X times 0 times x gives me 0x squared. If you want to just leave this, just put a 0 there, that's fine. And minus x times plus 1 gives me minus x. So now what I'm going to do is subtract this, minus x cubed minus minus x cubed gives me 0. X squared minus 0 still gives me x squared. X minus minus x gives me 2x, and I'm going to bring the 2 down. And now what I'm going to do is take this first term and divide it by the first term over there, and that gives me 1, which is this term here. 1 times x squared times this whole thing. 1 plus 1 times this gives me x squared plus 0x plus 1. So now I subtract x squared minus x squared gives me 0. 2x minus 0 gives me 2x. And 2 minus 1 gives me 1. So this is my remainder. And now this power here is less than this. And that's when the problem has to end. So you have to end the problem when the power in the remainder, which here it's 1, is less than this. So what we really have, what we're saying here is if we take this and divide it by this, so here I'm taking this and dividing it by this, okay? So this is my divisor, this is my dividend. So divisor by the dividend gives me my quotient, which is right over here, plus my remainder, which must be divided by my divisor right here. So there's my remainder, and this is divided by this right here. Now we can again check this problem if you want. It's up to you. But it's always good to check problems, make sure that you've done it right. So if we multiply both sides by x squared plus 1, let's do the right side here. The left side, sorry. We're going to multiply both sides by x squared plus 1. So the x squared plus 1 times this will cancel. The numerator and the denominator will cancel. And I'll be left with just this part right here. So I'm multiplying the left side by x squared plus 1, and I get this. Now if I multiply the right side by x squared plus 1, I get this for the first term. And then the x squared plus 1 times this whole thing, the x squared on the numerator and the denominator will cancel, and I'll just be left with 2x plus 1. So when I simplify this and I take the first term of this and I multiply it by all of that, I get this part right here. And then I take the plus 1 and multiply it by the whole second bracket, again here, and then add this 2x plus 1, I get that. Now when I simplify this, x squared times 2x squared gives me 2x to the 4th. X squared times minus x gives me minus x cubed. X squared times plus 1 gives me plus x squared. And now I use the distributive rule on this. Plus 2x squared, I get that here. Plus 1 times minus x gives me minus x. And plus 1 times plus 1 gives me plus 1. And then I get 2x plus 1 right here. So I should have 8 terms. 3 from here, 3 from here gives me 6, 7, and 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now I'm going to collect like terms. There's only one term with a power 4. And there's only one term with a power 3. So those don't change. I add x squared plus 2x squared. I get 3x squared. I add minus x plus 2x. I get plus x. And right over here, oh, mistake, 1 plus 1 should equal 2. So let me just change that over here. Make that into a 2. So what do I have here? I add 1 and 1, and now that gives me 2. So that's what I should have, because if we look at the left side here, we have 2x to the 4th minus x cubed, that's this term, plus 3x squared plus x plus 2. So I made an error here. This plus 1 and this plus 1 should be 2. And now the right side equals the left side. So when you're doing these kinds of problems, you should do them systematically. Do this part here so that you always can go back and check to see if you've made an error. Let's say this part of the problem doesn't work. Your left side doesn't equal your right side. So you could go back, and if you've written this out, you can see if you've made a mistake, or you can try to diagnose where your mistake is. So that completes our discussion on page 58.